What up, gamers? We are back with some more modern action. I'm, of course, NanMan, bringing you guys all the coverage over here at NanMan's Nerd Corner. And we've got a Graveyard Matters match coming up to start your week off. Hope you all enjoyed our mirror matchup week that we held last week. We had a prowess versus prowess, hardened scales versus hardened scales, and now we're getting into a graveyard versus graveyard, but two different decks. One of which is a old school strategy known as Living End that focused on the Cascade mechanic to cascade into a Living End to bring back all of those big cycling creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield, while the Grixis Reanimator is more of a Pierce strategy, focus on one specific creature in their graveyard. They're going to be trying to bring out like Oculus. They're going to try to bring out the Archon of Cruelties, things like that. So it's also just having the value engines that exist within the Grixis colors. So it is very powerful, very strong to be able to utilize. So it's going to be interesting to see how this matchup works in particular with, the Grixis Reanimator wants to put things in the graveyard, so maybe this might be a tough battle for the Living End player here, but we'll see how things go. It's basically going to come down to who can kind of get themselves going fast enough, and a Psychic Frog is a huge problem. Of course, in response to a Cascade, in response to a Living End, you could be able to be like, well, I'll dump what creatures I have in my hand with this frog and just put them all in the graveyard here. But let's see how things go here. Cycling already going to take place. Windcaller Aven is going to give that flying, because it is when you cycle, you have to give a creature flying if there is a legal target. So, but we do have a Temple Garden. So it is 4-color Living End rocking out with Ardent Plea and our Shardless Agent. So 2 ways to be able to cascade into it. And the deck is very much like, if you've never played a Living End deck before, it is very straightforward in the lines and the gameplay in game 1. Game 1 is very much like, I'm going to cycle this, I'm going to cycle this, I'm going to cycle this. Can I cascade? Do you have a response? No? Cool. All right. Well, then I will bring back all these dumb dudes. Game 2 and 3 is when things get much more nuanced, and you have to, work through things a little bit harder to kind of battle it out against your opponents. Graveyard hate that they would be bringing in. And the more graveyard hate that exists, the less that we see Living End popping up here. But Persist, speaking of graveyard stuff, Persist going to be returning a non-legendary creature, which means the Oculus coming out here. So that is the thing. It's like, immediately we're going to manifest Dread, and we've got some threats coming across. So how quickly can we get ourselves in a position to cascade? Right now, not. I mean, what do we got? Ardent Plea in hand, but one creature wipe the board doesn't really feel like it's where we want to be right now. And oh my gosh, I think that I might have seen a Spell Pierce in hand. That would be horrible. But yeah, of course, if you guys are watching, you like our coverage and content over here, make sure you guys are following along, subscribing, all that good stuff. There's the Ardent Plea going to come down. So resolves, and we will get the Cascade. Basically, we're using this to try to wipe the board, but we're digging. We're looking. Can we cascade anything that costs less than 3? And there is one target. Living End here. So attempt to cast Living End off the Cascade. We will be, of course, exiling all cards, but nope. Spell Pierce is going to put a stop to that. No 2 mana there, so that is a little bit tough. It says, would you like to cut this stuff that goes on the bottom? No, doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely probably one of the hardest matchups that Living End has to deal with, because not only do you have to deal with like the blue stuff, like right there we saw the Spell Pierce, but also a deck that cares about playing with the graveyard. So this is tough spot to be in. Now, there is ways that you can help improve the Living End list and stuff like that, depending on how you want to go about it. Some players run Force and Negations and things. My list does not currently run Force and Negations, and this player that we see on camera is borrowing my list. I mean, it's a good card, but it wouldn't have helped us in that situation, right? So it's like, I don't know. I'd rather just put in more cyclers and it's fine. Also, because I've only got certain number of copies of Force and Negations, and between like Commander decks and other modern decks, it's like I can't I don't know. I want to build other decks and being like, I could buy this Force Negation, or I could spend that and buy a couple of other pieces for this deck I'm building, or I could buy this fetch land that would help out multiple decks. And like, so there's this kind of, you know, definitely decision-making moments where you have to kind of decide how you want to prioritize when you are doing like I do with the modern content creation and are picking and choosing how you want to focus on the content. And part of that is making so many different decks that we can be able to showcase and feature on the channel. Speaking of decks, we've got a Dredge Phoenix deck that is almost finished up. So that'll be coming up on the channel. We're slowly working on putting together our Samwise combo. I know players have requested that one, so that's in the works. It's slowly getting built up, but yeah, lots of things that we're working towards here. We've got some human gameplay coming up for you to be able to see. We've got some Boggle matches that we're going to be showcasing in a bit, but ooh, okay. Press the enemy. Return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with equal mana value from your hand without paying its mana. So right here, I don't like the target of the Oculus here. Like we see that be the target, but with Frog, it just like basically negates that, right? Where our goal is to be able to cast another Living End here. And that's why Press the Enemy exists in the list, is if you ever get it stuck in your hand and you're like, well, this is a dead card. Well, yes, but also we have a way to answer and interact with it. But by targeting the Oculus, this then allows our Reanimator player to respond and pitch the Oculus to the Frog, and then there would be, you know, basically a reset of things here. But we do see Living End going to be cast from the hand. And Thought Scour in response. Looks like we're digging for something. Maybe another Frog. Oh my gosh, look at this. Basically, it's just going to reset everything. It doesn't matter. Discard this Oculus, discard this Frog. Where otherwise those two cards would be stuck in hand. Oh, that's tough. That's really tough. Just kidding. We didn't want to get rid of that Frog. These two Oculus come back. Here's your Aven friend there. But here's the thing. With double Oculus, you get a Manifest Dread twice. So it's like, well, that doesn't really help us here. Tough game one. I mean, most of the time with the Living End, you should be trying, like, you should be winning game one because most players are not prepared for it. Now, I will say I've played the Living End deck a couple of times. There are certain matchups that definitely feel better than others. Surprisingly, like some of the aggro Boros Energy decks and things like that are not too bad because you can be able to be like, you want to go wide as a Boros Energy player and get out there, and I'm just going to basically say, I don't care, we're resetting things, and now we're going to go and make something happen. But there's plenty of other decks that exist, of course, in Modern, not just Boros Energy. Jeskai Blink, you know, one of the top decks out there. So we've got a nice variety of decks that show up at the shop in particular that we feature on camera here. But I don't know, with the hand of our Living End player, like, yeah, they have a subtlety, but it is not looking good in game number one. Not really able to get a lot of cycling done either. You notice that. Like, I don't know. It's tough. It is tough. Maybe there needs to be, I mean, I'm trying to think of like what maybe I mean, so when you're looking at it, you don't want to mulligan one of your Cascade effects. Like, you don't want to mulligan unless you have, like, oh, I'm stuck with a Living End in my hand and I need to get rid of that, right? But, like, if you're like, oh, I have one of my Ardent Pleas, I have one of my Shardless Agents, that's a keepable hand as a Cascade deck. And your hope is that you've got a couple of cycling cards that you can be able to utilize to help yourself out there and kind of set yourself up. But we see a little bit of, like, in the tank thinking a little bit here, you know. There are a couple of lines and decision-making points here that make it a little bit tough. Oh, Faithless looting here. So let's get some information. Draw 2, discard 2. And the graveyard's full of goodies, too. Like, we're basically looking for a way to reanimate that Archon at this point in time. But we've seen, you know, Persist go in there at least one, two. Yeah, you see 2 up at the top there of the graveyard. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, lots of, I don't know. I think there is that tough spot, but I feel like you're in a commanding position, but it's still, oh, not even actually worried about the Persist. Interesting. I don't know. I think there was an Unearth there, but I would just have, like, let's go for it. Let's do the Persist. Let's bring the Archon here. But, all right, Subtlety is going to come. We're basically trying to chump block the Oculuses and hope to cycle and draw into something next turn to maybe get a Cascade effect. We're going to fetch, but there is the Fatal Push, Revolt Trigger, clear the path, and that is going to scoop it up for game number 1 there. So, bit of decision-making moments there, but not that big of a deal for our Grixis Reanimator.
We're interrupting our gameplay to let you know about our new affiliate with NerdGear. nerdgear.gg/nanman will take you directly to the website, and as you can see, they've got a bunch of awesome gaming accessories from playmats, life counters with the life tracks, playmat holders, and more. So make sure you do some browsing on the site, find some goodies, and then use the code NGNanman for 5% off your entire order. But let's get back to our gameplay.
All right, game number 2. Let's get in here. Of course, we don't have any of the sideboard action here, but we get to see at least a sideboard card in our Living End player's hand there. So we'll see if that does come and actually matter here. That inevitable betrayal is what we're talking about there. Another Cascade effect. I'm sure there are some copies of Living End still in the list, but being able to have access to, you know, an Archon of Cruelty sounds pretty good to me. But let's see. Faithless Looting. Let's start it off. Throw something big and scary. Or an Oculus in the graveyard, which can be kind of scary. So let's be honest. You know, I have since updated my Dimir list and I'm running Oculus, but I'm not on the Archon package at the moment. I'm not sure. Maybe I will go into the Grixis side. We'll see. The deck seems cool, but Riverwinder coming out. I like this card a lot. 5/5 for Hexproof. We've seen it put in a lot of work here, but... Ooh, okay, the Uncounterable Land. What's that? I don't even remember the name. It's from the cons. When we return to cons. I mean, speaking of, like, sets, though, we have our Lorwyn. Eclipse is out now. I've been cracking a couple packs, interacting with the set a bit. It seems really cool. Very happy with seeing the Shocklands back, but Oculus is reanimated back out onto the battlefield here, so we're going to get into things as the Manifest Dread takes place. What are we going to see? We do have a Cascade effect here. Looks like Superior Spider-Man was what got put into the graveyard there. I like Superior Spider-Man a lot. I think it's actually going to be really cool in a list like this where you are doing things like, ooh, Ashiok here. Okay. No more searching. And looks like we're going to go for target player puts top 4 cards of the library in the graveyard, then each opponent exiles there. I think the idea of exile, I mean, you always exile your opponent's stuff, but you could mill yourself with the Ashiok there and fill your graveyard up with 4 more cards, and then your opponent's stuff is exiled. So it's like, it's a really nice spot to be able to be like, well, let's hope we can get into a Cascade effect here. Let's, you know, dump a bunch of stuff. And if we're expecting our Ashiok to die right away off of the Oculus anyway, we might as well fill our graveyard up a little bit more here. But I can understand just being like, nah, uptick, let's get rid of your stuff. All right, 4 more. Maybe we can get rid of some of your sideboard stuff. So, like, I think both lines are fine. Like, 2 damage across. The Oculus going to hit Ashiok. And Faithless, we're digging. What are we looking for here? get rid of... I mean, you want to throw a creature in there, right? Up to 3 mana right now for a living end player, so it's very likely they could be just being able to Cascade next turn. Don't have a green source yet, though. Oh, 1 Persist, 1 Archon. That's kind of like nodding, being like, hey, I've got another Persist. Manifest Dread there, but no second land. Ooh, this is going to be weird. All right, yeah, you see, looks like we're going to start cycling. Curator of Mysteries. We're digging for maybe a green source here. Okay, cycle again. Our River Winder. Cycle again. Ah, okay, Generous End this time, so we can get our forest that we're missing. A Breeding Pool. Do we want to pay the 2? Basically gives us another cycle. Yep, looks like we will. I mean, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 Cascade creatures there. So we're setting ourselves up in a good position. Also, us waiting a little bit to potentially, you know, have Spell Pierce backup or something could be really nice here. So let's see what is this next turn going to look like. Cycle. Another Curator going to cycle through here. All right, still no second land though.
Would you like to cast Living End? I know, it's so bad.
So would you like to cast Living End? I've got an Archon. I've got an Oculus. Oh, where's our Ashiok number 2? Or maybe the Ashiok. I don't think. Nah, I don't think it's deployed too early, but just like makes it tough because now if we have to deal with the Oculus. Yeah, there's the Shardless. Cascade. He says, please be the blue one, not the black one. Please give me the card that I need. Let's see. Oh, Living End.
Would you like to cast it?
Would you like to cast it? He says, I'll die either way. ETB, and then I'll attack.
Please die, right?
All of those will die. Everything on the battlefield will die. Get a food, but you can't even pop it. Oh, yeah, so Archon of Cruelty enters the battlefield, 3 life, and then, of course, it also does this on attack. So it's like, well, you pass turn, and then I'll just attack and kill you. You're at 5 right now. Oh, that's so tough. Okay, so the player was thinking that Suspend was cheaper on the Inevitable Betrayal there, but it was not. It costs 3 too. Oh, the Fairy, yeah. So there's a bunch of little one-ofs in there, like cast this from your graveyard, cast this from your hand, ways to kind of do Living End and do different things like that. So tough spot for a Living End player, but we got to see a bit of kind of what sometimes Grixis Reanimator does. And if your shop doesn't have a lot of graveyard hate, both of these decks are perfectly fine and reasonable to bring to your shop or play online. Well, online might be a little bit tougher because, you know, some of the decks that are running around there and speed at which some of the players are playing. But look at this. Okay, Nihil Spellbomb, a little bit of sideboard. So yeah, we get to see a little bit of the sideboard stuff. 2 Ashioks here. Inevitable Betrayals. Probably there's 2 of those. Fairy Macabre. Oh, the Superior Spider-Man sideboard. Interesting. And Mystical Dispute there. I like that. You know, we've talked about it all the time. I love being able to see cards. Ugh, gross. Vexing Devil. Not Vexing Devil. Vexing Bauble. Wow, Vexing Devil. That's a whole different card altogether. But Vexing Bauble making so all those Cascade cards basically can't be cast. It basically reads, Living End, Inevitable Betrayal may not be cast this game as long as this card exists on the battlefield. So, you know, bit one-sided for this one to start the week off, but it's okay. That's kind of part of Magic sometimes when you play best of 3s. Sometimes they are one-sided like this, but, you know, that doesn't mean these decks are bad decks, or we won't see them again on the channel, of course, because there are plenty of chances to be able to see that. But, yeah, we get to see a little bit of what players brought out to be able to bring in these cards here. And, yeah, look at this. Fatal Pushes. Yeah, nope. Not really. Not really useful. Oh, interesting. The Grixis Reanimator was talking about maybe there's some lines where I might have to push an Oculus to help myself, but no, not these cards are much more important and impactful than me keeping the fatal pushes in or the thought scours. So you just sort of shave numbers of like thought scour over more impactful things, but that is it for this one. Starting off the week with some graveyard stuff. We've got plenty of other good games coming up here, like Dimir Fairies, Hollow One, Omnath Cascade, Tron, Jeskai Blink, Prowess, Neoform, and Mono Blue Tron, as well as many other decks. Of course, if there's one you want to see, please let us know. Leave a comment. Tell us what decks we should focus on the channel. But that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next game.